Hello again, everybody. Hey, if you've been thinking about buying a house in 2023, today we're going to take you through that process from start to finish, show you how it's done, and give you some great tips and strategies from local experts. Coming up next. All right. Hello again, everybody. Preston Kallshian here. And today, like I said, we're going to take you through home buying process, start to finish. It's 2023. So we'll give you some of our best strategies and secrets from the industry. I'm joined as usual by my friend and mortgage advisor, Phill Becraft. Phill, how's it going?
Hey, doing good, man. Thanks for having me again. The market sure is heating up.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know this is in some ways basic information, right? How to buy a house, but in other ways, you might find something in here that you didn't know or could really make your strategy more successful this year. We're going to put some chapters in here. So if you want to jump forward to a certain section about inspection, appraisal, closing, anything like that, click the chapter thumbnail and just jump to that. Otherwise, please give us a like, a comment. I'm sure we'll get something wrong today. You can call us out. We'd love to hear that you were here. You know, we respond to all the comments. So put the questions in and we will check them out later. So let's dive right in. I wanted to just, because it's probably going to take us 20 or 30 minutes to get through this. And some people, sometimes it's like, hey, where do we even start, right? There's a few places like, do we start searching online or do we go to open houses or get the loan approval first? It's like, I don't know. What do you think, Phill? Where do we even start?
I'd love to hear what people are thinking and where they start. So if you have any comments, go ahead and throw it in there. But I think, like you said, they're going to look online. That's the first place they're going to look. Maybe they're starting at looking at their homes, but they don't know their budget yet.
Yeah. Well, and that's the fun part, really, right? Is that the fun part is searching, kind of like getting your feet wet. And I encourage people to do this. Yeah, we want you to get a loan approval right away and know your numbers. I've heard Phill say that quite a few times. But it is okay to have a little fun with it too before, the actual reality sets in and maybe it gets a little more stressful. But I think getting your feet wet, checking out some open houses, searching online is an okay place to start.
Yep.
In fact, I've heard a lot of people do that like 6 months or more ahead of when they're really going to buy a house.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing the same thing. People kind of kick these ideas around. They're, like you said, getting out, actually going to homes in their neighborhood that are open, and then they're kind of emotionally connected and committed.
Yeah. And then you got to find out, hey, what can we really do, right? And find out
Yep.
what your numbers are. And if you have a short time frame probably for finding a home, you're not 6 months ahead of the game, then it's important to do the loan approval first, right? Or when you're starting to get serious, you're going to open houses and going, man, would we make an offer on this? Or you're calling an agent for a tour. You got to give Phill, your mortgage advisor, a call, right? And find out what your numbers are. Why is that important, Phill?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. You're kind of getting ahead of yourself if you're getting out there, getting emotionally connected and attached to these big, beautiful homes, not knowing what your numbers are. And a really cool thing that our company is now doing is soft credit pulls, so we can be really, like just less committed in there, right? So you want to see the numbers, and that's what we want to see too. So now we're offering soft credit pulls. We'll look at your whole financial picture, actually give you a full approval and underwritten approval based on a soft credit pull. So we don't even have to go too deep. But then you have a better idea,
I'm not
understanding.
I'm not even really sure what a soft credit pull is like versus what a hard credit pull. What is that?
I'm I'm getting you. So a hard credit pull is just that. It is the top of tier of the digging deeper to look at your information, right? So when you take a mortgage application, it's going to be likely the biggest purchase of your life. So we're going to peel back the layers and do a hard credit pull. It's going to show everything, lates, collections, what your monthly payments are, previous homes you've owned in the past, addresses you've used, public records, all that stuff. What we're offering as a soft credit pull is a tri-merge. So all three of those credit bureaus will look at all that same information, but less invasive on your credit. It won't show up as a hard inquiry. That's the big difference.
Okay. All right. All right. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, and kind of along with that, the one thing that we're looking for as a real estate agent is that letter in your hand, or maybe it's in your email box, right? It says, before I really take a buyer seriously. And sometimes agents won't even take them to see a house unless they see that pre-approval letter, right? And it says what what you can actually afford. So we don't go show you a $900,000 house when your budget's actually 600, right? And get you
Yep.
fall in love
No,
with a house that you can't afford.
exactly. And
Um,
you got that right. And I'd love to kind of debunk these myths and kind of show you a pecking order of what it means to be pre-qualified,
yeah,
pre-approved, and then credit approved. And so, really, the quick overview of that is pre-qualification is just pre-qualifying you based on your stated income. You take a maybe an application, or maybe you just fill out a sheet online, and your stated employment and income, your stated assets run. The numbers work. Pre-approval is you actually documenting those to me, me actually looking at your credit and your monthly minimum payments and your pay stubs, your W-2s and whatnot, and giving you my stamp of approval. To take it further, we're taking all those documents for your pre-approval with and putting it in front of an underwriter and getting their stamp of approval for insurability on a loan. So I know we had this conversation real quick, but I'll sum up a really quick story. I got a person in contract this morning, which happened to have a pre-qualification letter. They went and submitted an offer with their agent. Well, the listing agent, being a veteran that she was, called them out and said, "This is not going to work. This is a pre-qualification.
yeah,
This is really soft." So she called
okay,
me. We got them validated electronically, and we got a full pre-approval based on validating their employment and income, and their assets were coming from selling a home. I had a pre-approval to her within an hour, and this is a big difference.
yeah,
So
and
went
that's
into
a
it.
great point because um, veteran listing agents, they really do take a close look and sometimes call the lender, but they take a close look at the pre-approval letters. Is it a pre-qualification? Is it a pre-approval, or the higher tier that Phil mentioned, the fully underwritten? What we're really looking for, right, is the most qualified buyer.
Right.
That fully underwritten pre-approval letter is extremely powerful for a listing agent. And then if we can call and I get Phil on the line, he says, "Yeah, I just worked. I just went through their documentation this last week. Their numbers look great. They're in a great position to buy. They're fully qualified, approved with the letter." Then I can take that to my seller client and say, "Hey, yeah, I've spoken to the lender. The approval looks really good, right? We don't have concerns there, and it lessens the risk for the
Yep.
seller."
Yep.
So we kind of made our way through the fun part and searching online, hitting some open houses, getting your approval letter. And just to round that out, Phil, what's the process, right? Do we call you or we email you, or how do I go about, I want to get an approval letter today. What should I do?
In today's age, it's up to you. My information's all online. I have some people that only want to text, so of course I'm doing that, sending them links via text, all that kind of stuff. But really, we want to pick up the phone and just hear your goals, and then just kind of work with you together to line it up. I'd mentioned that some people, especially first timers, they're very really like sensitive about their credit. So we got the soft credit pulls now, and we're just trying to work at whatever pace they're at, and we'll communicate with whatever vessel they want to. A lot of it's done online nowadays.
Well, yeah, but what I hear there from you is a high level of service, right? So there
Yeah.
are some people that want to talk and they want to have a conversation, maybe even meet in person and talk about their strategies and feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with you or with me as their agent. And there are others that go, "No, just text me the link, right? And I'll do the
Yeah.
application." So
Yeah.
I think what Phil's saying is whichever way you want to, be served, he can help you out.
That's it.
Um, Now I was going to hit agent tours, right? When we're getting a little more serious, and
Mhm.
and we're talking about searching online and then wanting to request tours, and what does that look like? Um, Usually for me, sometimes we have people searching within our own ecosystem, like on my website or on my app, and they're communicating with me that way, and that's great. The other times, maybe you're out there, you're on Zillow, for example, right? And you save a property and you text me the link and, "Hey, I want to see this." So at that point, I vet the property for you. I'm happy to show pretty much anybody up any property I can, within reason and within the area, but I'm going to vet it for you first. I'm going to get into the MLS and read the private agent notes, find out what it takes to set up a tour, right? Is there an open house? or do we call the owner? How do we do it? Nowadays, we have an app where usually we can set up a showing within the app, and I can get you in there typically within 24 hours. We might be going same day. Um,
Sweet.
but really, all you have to do is ask, right? You ask me, I vet the property, and then I'll send you a confirmation, or I might give you some more information about the property and why we may or may not be for you. Um, then we set up the tour, set a time that works, and we meet there, right? I open up the door with my MLS key. We go through and look at it. That's
Hmm.
really all there is to an agent tour. Most people have seen it. They haven't changed that much over the years, other than some of the ways we communicate and some of the ways that we actually get into the houses with
Yeah.
Bluetooth keys and things like
And
that.
I'm glad you brought this up because I heard this tip the other day. Keep your lips sealed.
Oh man, that's a good one, Phill.
Hey, I think half the homes on my street have Ring cameras outside, but guess what? Some of them are putting them inside.
They're inside
So
too.
keep your opinions until your door closes in the driveway, because you're giving
That's
them information that could be used against you.
yeah. You're an absolute veteran, and I got that written down right here. My
Oh,
secret
really?
tip is you got to be careful what you reveal and what you say because
Totally.
they're listening, and you don't know, and whether or not they should tell you if it's happening. They may not, and that information that you reveal inside the home could be used against you, right? So,
Oh,
uh,
man.
yeah, I wouldn't. Sometimes I know people are watching and I will say good things about their home,
Yep.
and as we leave the house, I know that Ring doorbell is watching my every move. As I open the door, as I unlock your door, I know you're watching. Um, so we might try and hide a little bit, or we might throw you
Right.
some false compliments.
Oh, exactly. And we've done this before too. If it could be a contender, Preston's reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, go ahead and run some numbers based on these exact property taxes to give
Yep.
those clients a leg up." So even before they walk through the door of a contender, they know all the numbers.
Yeah.
So we've done that before, haven't we? So
Lenders are advanced these days. So yeah, like Phil said, I could shoot him a text while we're at the property or however I want to do it and just say, "Hey,
mhm,
here's the address," and he can take care of the rest, right? He's very capable of finding all the details on that property
yeah,
and plugging them right into his um, mortgage coaching sheet, to
yep,
coach up his clients and getting us those exact numbers for the property. So we have a real scenario. We're not guessing.
yeah,
Um,
they
and
love
he's
that.
already got all your numbers and your approval, so we can put the two together and develop a real scenario
Hmm.
before you make that offer. And we're kind of getting to that point. Um, we're at decision point now. We've had the fun part. We've been through some homes. We're getting pretty serious. We think we found a house we like. Um,
Oh yeah,
and sometimes
exciting
that
times.
decision is hard, and sometimes it's easy, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's different for all people. Some people are unemotional, but I'd say you and I can attest to most people are pretty emotional. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and sometimes when you know, you know. Sometimes there's things to be thought about. You need to weigh your wants and needs, and
Hmm.
that's important.
Yep.
And compromises are typically made. There's not
Yes.
too many cases where we find the perfect house, or you don't realize it's the perfect house the first time we visit it. It might
I'm
be, but you
so
don't
glad.
notice it.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I think you had shared this with me. Does it meet 85% of your needs? Because let's be honest, even the people who go out there and build their dream home, you go over to their house and they're showing you, and they're picking apart their own home. Yeah, I wish we would
Yeah.
have done this, and next time we're going to do this. There's no perfect home, and the first home is rarely your forever home. So get into something, make sure it checks a lot of your boxes, not all.
Yeah, think about the things that can be changed and the things that can't be changed. If it's in a neighborhood you love, great. A lot of the other things can be changed, right? With
Yeah.
enough time and money,
Hmm.
elbow grease.
Hmm.
That's one of the best parts about home ownership is making a home your own.
Yes, there you go.
So yeah, and along with that decision making process, what I usually, there's compromise, your wants and needs list, but I always feel better if people sleep on it. And I know we're in a fast moving market, but emotional decisions made under the gun
Hmm.
um, can only lead to problems sometimes. So if
Yep.
we have that, you know, especially if we can't include a contingency like an inspection contingency that would allow us to walk away, if we're not
Yep.
doing that,
Hmm.
we really need to sleep on it.
Yeah,
Um,
and you're a master at that. And I tried to kind of, be. that neutral third party, but I let people know when you write contracts, especially, you're showing them all these contingencies, these alternatives to protect your clients. So it's not
Yeah.
all set in stone until really the finish line, right? So if the home didn't appraise, or for example, something like that, you can explain that, and I can explain that together to make them feel more comfortable too.
And it depends on the market that you're in. And the over the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of years, um, it's been hard to take that extra time to sleep on it. But at
Yep.
the same time, there have been less and less ways to get out of a contract. If you wanted to write a winning contract, there would be very little to no contingencies and no way out and no refundable earnest money.
Yep.
And so it got very tricky. Now we will probably be able to include more contingencies in 2023, such as the most common is the home inspection contingency,
Yeah.
where you would have 3 to 7 to 10 days, depending on your market and what you how you write it, to vet everything about the home and make sure it's for you before you could walk away if you
Yep.
wanted to.
And you and I are on the same page. So, when we're shopping ahead of time, there's certain loan programs that actually require inspections, and those are typically going to be those lower down payment or assistance programs, and that is set in place to protect the borrowers. Right? They're using a down payment assistance program. Obviously, we want to protect them even further, make sure there's no unforeseen problems with the property that they couldn't afford, because we're already using an assistance program. But again, this is why we have these discussions ahead of time to kind of peel back the what ifs, you know?
Yep. And we were kind of jumping into writing an offer. So I'm going to talk about writing an offer here, and the process just a little bit more. After you've really made that decision, you slept on it, you're feeling pretty good, we're ready, and we're contacting our agent to discuss the terms because we got to kind of all get on the same page. As hey, what's our offer price? What
Mm-hmm.
contingencies do we need or do we require? Right, like a want or a need an inspection contingency based on either our loan type or our personal preference, right, our risk tolerance, um, as opposed to a financing contingency that really would be required because in the case of something changing with our financial situation, we would not be able to purchase the home and we would need to be able to get our earnest money back. So
Mm-hmm.
some all that stuff that we'll discuss in your strategy and how we're going to write the offer on your behalf, which the agent does on MLS forms just to kind of walk you through the process. And then in the old days, we would meet you and you'd sign it in person, and then we'd fax it off to the listing
Oh,
agent.
yeah.
Now we'll probably email you a contract, something like a DocuSign, right?
Yep.
But still, often I'll be on the phone or on a Zoom call with the client to walk through as they read the contract and put their initials in each spot. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the process of writing it. Once we complete and everybody signs it, we
Yeah.
send it, right? And we listing agent receives it and they can present it to their clients, and that starts the negotiation process.
Yep. And then you and I do this, and I think it's helped us win several deals in the past. Is as soon as Preston would send off that deal, I'll reach out directly to listing agent, open up communication, be available. Hey, the this family is amazing. They're through underwriting. We're ready to rock and roll. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll do that via video or just pick up the phone and call them directly. But that just gives us that extra leg up on our competition for other lenders who are not doing that. I don't know why
Oh
they
yeah. That's extremely powerful, that proactive call from the lender to the listing agent. Because
Yep.
as a listing agent, when I get that call, bam, that buyer jumps to the top of the list, right? As far as how we feel about them and the risk tolerance and how we feel like the relationship from day zero in the transaction to closing day would work with their lender. Because we're
Mm-hmm.
going to work together, right? The agent, the lender, the escrow company,
Yep.
we're going to kind of be this um, 3-person team, and there might be
Yeah.
more people involved, right? But three main areas that all need to work together symbiotically to come to a final destination,
Mm-hmm.
if you will.
The biggest thing about, and we talked about this in other podcasts, but communication solves a lot of people's worries, right? The fear comes in the unknown. So I think we do a pretty good job throughout our transactions is educating them enough so their ears don't bleed, but like they get the steps and they know what to expect next. That's why you're so good at your job is you do that really, really well. Is education along through the process, and that minimizes a lot of their fears, right?
Yes, sir. So we kind of got through the offer process and we touched on negotiation there a little bit. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on negotiation, but really, this is the period between when we've sent the offer to them and when we come to an agreement, right? And what happens in between there. Sometimes we'll send the offer over and the seller just loves it and they sign it and we're under contract within an hour or so.
Yeah.
Other times there's some back and forth, and that would be usually there's a deadline of about 24 hours, so they could either sign and accept, or they could make some modifications and initial them and then send it back to us, right? Maybe they'll change
Right.
the selling price a little bit, or maybe they'll change the number of days allowed for inspection, or the down, the earnest money payment or the escrow company. Any little change would be considered a counteroffer. Typically, right, it's on price or some other term that's one of the core terms, such as price, contingency, inspection, deadlines, things like that.
Hmm.
um, but what I usually see is like there's some back and forth and then we meet in the middle. A lot of negotiations just end up that way.
Yep. That's the exciting part.
Yeah, so sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. Depends on the agent. There are some agents out there that are very tough negotiators, right? And they're very tight-lipped and there's
Hmm.
no emotion. They're not fun to work with, but they represent their clients well.
Yeah.
And there are other agents that are absolute pushovers and their clients lose thousands of dollars because they're not good at their job.
We've
And there's
seen that too.
everything in between. So having a good agent on your side is important in all cases because they need to be able to identify that in the other party and the other situation, other agent,
Hmm.
and leverage that to your advantage.
Well said. Yeah. They got to advocate you for you like huge. This
Yeah,
is a
and
big deal.
there are certified negotiation experts out there, CNEs, which is a designation.
Where do we get one?
I'm not a big believer in designations. They are
Yeah.
fun, and sometimes they're well deserved,
Yeah.
but don't count on it. Right? There are
Sure.
great negotiators out there that don't have them, and there are
Yeah.
people that do have that designation and probably don't know a thing about it. I
I've
don't.
heard a good story too. Like if you're bartending and this was your first bartending gig and you came with a certificate of bartending, clearly experience is a lot better in bartending than say a certificate telling him that you know how to shake a mojito. So
100%.
kind of the same thing here is how I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah. To wrap up negotiations and it really is an art, and it's about knowing when to talk and when to listen. I came up through the car sales business, and there were some situations where I was told by the manager that in this situation, the next person that talks loses.
Oh yeah,
And we
we
would
heard
be
that too.
you would sit there and just try not to say something because you're thinking what he said to you. Man, if I say something, but I want to win this negotiation. So I wait for the other agent or the client to respond. Doesn't come
Yeah,
into play a lot in real estate, but
yeah.
it's a reminder that be careful like what you say when you say it.
Timing is huge too. Yeah, you don't want to come off as too eager. That's hard to do. Is not talk when it comes to making your mission statement or shooting your shot, and not going, hey, and also, it just minimizes your requests.
Yeah. And agents are tempted to try to make things work. And sometimes that surfaces like, here's where they're at, but I think they might.
Right.
Right, and all of a sudden, that's like saying when I see an advertisement for a product, like on Facebook Marketplace or something, says like they're asking 500, then right in the description they say the lowest I'd take is 399 or 350.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then I'm gonna offer you 350. Why'd you even put 500?
Yeah.
We're
That
starting
information
negotiation.
in the age of information. I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah.
Hold your cards a little bit closer, people.
Yep. All right, let's move into inspections.
Oh
Moving
yeah,
right along. We got a
we're gonna need that.
contract. Negotiations are done. Buyers are happy. Let's go inspect the house because we might have only been there once, or God forbid we bought it sight unseen from out of state, which can happen. I can go there on your behalf and take a
Hmm.
video,
Hmm.
but that means the inspection is going to be even more important, right? Because this
Yeah.
is either your first or second time maybe through the house to actually really take some time and take some of the emotion out of it, and then have the third party, the home inspector, look at everything from every light switch to under the house to in the attic and under every sink. They're going to do it all. They're going to try everything and try to find a problem.
Hmm.
Um, so home inspections really, we set it up for you unless you've already picked a home inspector. We'll recommend a
Hmm.
couple.
Yeah.
Um, we all meet there at the house. I definitely recommend you go to your home inspection and follow the home inspector. Take
Good
some
point.
pictures, learn a lot about the house.
Yeah.
Also, if there are deficiencies, you've laid your eyes on them.
Sure. If you bring your
Um,
dad, just tell him to zip it. Okay.
yeah,
Inspectors, we've all seen some memes that go around about that, but just, yeah,
yeah.
bring
I mean,
the
it's fun to bring the family along sometimes, but I
sure.
don't think inspection day is the best day for it. There's just too many know-it-alls, and
Yes. That's what I
some
was getting
things that might be acceptable to you. Um, Somebody else it's not acceptable to them, but this is not their house, this is not their money, right? So it's another time for that. We can set up another showing to go take a look at it, probably, or take some
at.
measurements, that kind of stuff. But
And I want to bring something up too, just real quickly before moving on. Inspections are paid as one of those closing expenses that are paid outside of the transaction. So this is something that Preston will set up with you, and he's got a handful of some really awesome guys that we've used in the past. But this is an upfront cost that is not part of, say, the loan process, but it is something that you'll need to take care of outside of the transaction.
good point. I mean, a home inspection is usually around $500. That
Yeah.
varies, right? If you're inspecting a small
Yep.
condo, then maybe it's less. If you're inspecting a mansion, it's over 3,500 or 4,000 square feet, something
Yep.
large, a lot of rooms,
Yep.
multiple crawl spaces. It's going to be more because this is hard work, right? They're going to all the places you don't ever want to go, really.
They are with
Um,
pictures.
but yeah, so you got to pay the home inspector on inspection day. And I once heard an inspector say that the most expensive thing you can buy is a cheap home inspection.
You said it. I mean, it's basically a detailed report card, and there's going to be some things that you'll negotiate that have opportunity to fix prior to close, and most of the stuff it'll just say, "Hey, roof has got X amount of life. Hey, this furnace was serviced at this time. There's the lifespan is has this." So these are milestone moments which Preston has shared with his clients. Hey, he's got a guy for everything. I always say that. I come to you first. But just take notes of this thing. Throw it in your calendar to check up in 2 years on the roof and such. So
Yep.
use it as a big honey to do list
It really is because the house isn't going to be perfect probably. Even new construction homes, they find stuff all the time.
all the time.
Those will be fixed by the builder usually, but in a resale home, sometimes we're negotiating to get repairs and
Yep.
sometimes we're negotiating for credit so that we can fix them later on our own terms. And sometimes they go accepted. They're tolerable. They're not major deficiencies. But like Phil said, it becomes that honey-do list for you. You'll get your inspection report and you go, okay, yeah, I'm going to
Mhm.
work my way down this list
Yep.
as part of my home ownership plan and kind of like making it my own. So you just have to do a home inspection if it's possible. If we're in a market that's not allowing for you to have a home inspection contingency, then a pre-inspection. Your agent can arrange for the inspector to meet you there when you tour the home or for a second tour later that day or the next day. You go, yeah, we really like this one. Let's spend a few $100 for a
Mhm.
quick walkthrough or a pre-inspection with our inspector before we write our offer. Yeah, it's an expense, but you eliminate a lot of risk and you will write a stronger offer with no inspection contingency because you'll be able to waive based on the inspection you've already done, the knowledge you've already gained.
Mhm.
And that's like really powerful in any market. If you are willing to do these pre-inspections and
Mhm.
put forth offers without inspection contingencies, in other words, I can't walk away from this contract just because I don't like the house. That's a pretty solid contract. Sellers would be very attracted to that, especially in a market where most buyers might be coming with one.
Mhm.
If most buyers are coming with inspection contingencies or others, and you don't, you're automatically taking a step above them as long as your price is, comparable.
What's your opinion on seller procured inspections?
Yeah, so that's kind of the
What do you think?
next best thing, and sometimes that's all that's available. If we're in a
Yeah.
fast-moving market and we go into a house, there's gonna be multiple offers, and there's a seller procured home inspection like on the counter, or it's available to the agent. We download it and we can go, yeah, the seller had an inspection done the the week before or the month before they listed the home, and here's the full report, all the pictures, and If it looks good and it's from a reputable company, I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
But I want to see notes of
Yep.
if there are deficiencies on either how it was corrected, maybe there's receipts. The more information there, the better, the more comfortable that I can be and the client can be with that, then it can be acceptable.
Mhm.
If it looks like it's done by a non-reputable company we're not real sure about, and everything comes up squeaky clean, right, I might be a little bit wary of that report. I might say, well, I'm not so sure
Yeah.
that we don't want to have our own inspector just verify this stuff for us.
That's good. I like it.
So that kind of covered inspections and repairs. I'll hit one other note on inspection repairs. And I think that's just that there's a few different ways to get those done. Typically, if it's before closing, it's going to be on the seller's dime and on the seller's with their contractors, unless they allow you to choose one.
Mhm.
Um, so it's kind of on their terms, and they might cut corners. Other times, you'll agree to do them after closing. Maybe they give you a credit, or they just give you a credit and you never do. You just keep the money. Either way, it's kind of how repairs are usually handled. From
Mhm.
inspections, we come to an agreement what's going to be fixed, what's not. We all
Yeah.
sign off on it, and the inspection contingency is now satisfied.
Yeah, and to note on that, those seller credits are pretty valuable for us as lenders. We can use them to do temporary buy downs. We can use to do permanent buy downs, and we can get into that in a whole other, video podcast. But those are typically we can use those in so many different ways too.
I
So.
think that's it. Yeah, that's a great point, Phil. Still in inspections and repairs here that yeah, those could be those. I think what Phil's saying is those could be leveraged
Hmm.
to do something else, right? We could find
Yeah.
deficiency in the home and find seller credits rather than having them do the repairs and say we find another $1,000 that they need to credit us or 2,000 for deficiency we found. But
Hmm.
then instead of saving that for those, we're applying it to closing costs
Yeah.
or rate buy downs,
Totally. I mean,
ways to
it's
make
all
the home
about.
more affordable
Yep.
now, and then we can fix that stuff down the road.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. Um, okay, wrapped up inspections and repairs. What's next? It's appraisal time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now
Because
this
as
is
an
something
agent,
that's.
I see this happen all the time, Phil. Um,
Yeah.
Lenders that don't really know, sometimes they order these appraisals like day one, and we haven't
Hmm.
inspected the home, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
the appraiser is coming out, and we're not
Yeah.
even 100% sure we're buying it. So
Yeah.
usually I don't
Guilty of
ask the
that.
lender to order the appraisal until after we finish the inspection.
Yes,
I'm
I'm
out here.
glad you brought that up. And I think that in the cases that lenders like me have done that before, we just want to get on the calendar.
Good. Yeah.
When it was booming and it was like, go, go, go time during the pandemic, we just wanted to get on the calendar. And yeah, we would double up on appointments.
Hmm.
The appraiser would be showing up at the same time the inspectors leave and don't have the report back yet. So we had to hold it.
Yeah. Well,
We had
yeah,
to.
that's good. Sometimes there's good reason for that because in a fast moving market, you just want to get the wheels turning, right? Don't want to be waiting on the
Mhm.
appraisal.
And
Um,
lenders are not going to give you money based on a what if value. So those valuations are put in place because we're only going to lend up to the value of the home.
that's true. So aside from any a market analysis that an agent has done or anything a home inspector has said up to this point, the person who's actually giving you the money, typically this is unless you're buying with cash, this is your lender,
Yeah.
they get final say, right, on how much they are going to loan you and how much the home is really worth as far as collateral for them. That's
Hmm.
what the appraisal does. Appraisal gives lenders a detailed view and what the actual value of this collateral is, and then
Yeah.
what they should loan against it is, how they decide that. So appraisals are
Hmm.
really important, and there's a few
Yeah.
do's and don'ts kind of with appraisals. At least from an agent perspective, I will not
What's up?
tell an appraiser how to do their job or
Oh,
really provide any comps because I feel like that's just kind of stepping on their toes.
no. If you had to do this, I think I've seen other agents do this. Put a packet on the thing of maybe some of the work that's been done recently. That could make it,
Yeah,
a benefit to them. But yeah, don't tell anyone how to do their job. I don't know if it's the best idea.
yeah. No, but what you said there, leaving something or having that discussion with the appraiser typically does contact the listing agent to get access to the home.
Yeah.
So this is what a typical appraiser phone call sounds like for me as a listing agent. I get them all the
Oh,
time.
okay. Yeah.
Hey, Preston, this is Joe from Joe's Appraisal, and I see you have a contract at ABC, whatever address, and I'm setting up the appraisal for that. And I wanted to find out if there's anything else I need to know about this transaction, right? Is it arm's length transaction? It's not within a family, right? And
Yep.
what were anything else I should know? So this is my chance to go, hey, yeah, just so you know, we had 5 offers on this house.
Mhm.
3 of them were above asking price. 2 of them were bargain hunters. Um, and there's these, you see the inspection, we did that. So it gives them a look into what's happened. And this is my chance to build a little rapport with the appraiser and make sure we're
Yes,
not making
sir.
them mad, right? Because they hold all the power right now. If they bring in the value too low, it could break up our entire transaction because the
Yep.
appraisal has not met the selling price of the home. if
Yep.
every if they like the house, the transaction looks good, and they like us, everything's probably just going to sail through okay, unless we've done something dumb and you know offered an outrageous price for the house that's over
Yep.
market value. But the
And
interaction with the appraiser, if you have any, is a do be nice and don't do their job, I guess.
yes, and I was going to say, and we cannot directly contact the appraiser. There's
Right.
guidelines in place since 08, 09, where it says no, the lender cannot directly contact or try to influence the appraised value.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to have an agent kind of go through that, because they're the liaison between us,
Yeah.
because I cannot directly talk to them.
And it's strange that way, and I imagine that this could change down the road because the amount of interaction that I still have with an appraiser and the
Mhm.
access um, is great for us because of the reasons I just outlined. However, there is still that um, a bit of a some exposure there because agents have some influence over appraisers. So it's the same type situation. How mortgage brokers can't contact them now, but agents, we don't contact them; they contact us. But
Sure. Yeah, and
at
that's your
that point,
shot.
I have their phone number.
Right. And the only other thing I wanted to add before we move on from appraisals is it is pretty rare to change an appraised value. So some people will really want to fight this, especially when we were doing the refi boom the last couple of years. It was almost next to impossible unless there was a real true fact that was omitted in the report, because they're human. Sometimes they'll make a mistake. If they missed a bedroom or like the square footage was off, right? Like this is something that's facts, and county can back that up with records. But I rarely see appraisals that are challenged and overturned.
Right. Yeah. If it's just the value straight up and you just don't agree with it, it
Right.
happens all the time, and
Yeah,
they
or
don't change their mind or send out a reappraisal.
yeah, it's
Um,
like, hey, well, what about this comp? And it's always the buyers or the sellers or whoever is trying to challenge it, showing different comps. It's like, yeah,
yep.
this is they saw that, but this was not an actual comp, and here's why. That's usually what
Hmm.
happens. So I just thought I'd throw that out there too.
Totally. So after they do their and the appraiser goes out to the house and they do visit the house and they check some stuff physically, like is it still there? Um, does it have the major systems that it's supposed to have and they're up to code, like water heater, heat in the home, a place to cook food? Those are kind of required by law. It doesn't have to have a refrigerator. Sometimes you buy a fridge, sometimes a house comes with one. But those things like earthquake straps on a water heater, they check stuff like that. They don't go on the roof, but they look at it from the ground.
Mhm.
There are just a few, depending on the lender, probably in the banks. I don't know how it all works, but they have different things they check for, and some are more detailed, right?
Yep,
Um,
that's exactly right. Health and safety issues is all you're looking for. Um, and like you said, hot water strap, double strap hot
yep.
water tank, and make sure that thing doesn't fall over is so common. So make sure that's on there. And one other thing too is you can actually avoid appraisals if you have enough down payment. I could run the system through, and it should spit out if an appraisal is needed. And typically, it's good credit with more than 20% down. And sometimes we can use that as an advantage to close faster, or have Preston negotiate better terms.
Good point. And how long do we are we? Is it like a week till we get the appraisal back, or how long does that usually
Right
take?
now, I mean, it's the first week of March, and I ordered one yesterday, and it's coming on the 8th, so it's about 1 week.
Yeah. So yeah, after the appraisal happens, and the appraisal is really on behalf of the buyer and the lender. It's not the listing agents and it's not the seller's appraisal report. So we don't even usually get it unless there's a problem. What we usually happens, um, whether I'm the buyer's agent or the listing agent, I'm going to get some notification. I guess as the buyer's agent, I usually will get a notification from the buyer's lender that the
Yep.
appraisals come back and it has either met value or it has not.
Hmm.
And if not, there are any work orders to be done, such as the straps on the water heater, like you mentioned, or something else that needs to be corrected, right?
Yep. The terms is as is or subject to, and subject to some corrections being made before they can issue that value.
So what we're hoping for is, hey, appraisal came back, it's met value as
Yep.
is, right?
Yep. That's what we love to
Not
see.
subject to any or it didn't meet the value, which
Exactly.
in which case we're in a low appraisal situation. We deal with it occasionally, and there's a form we fill out. Hey, appraisal came in a little bit low. The seller can reduce the price to that, and we'll move forward. Or the buyer could make up the difference, and we'll move
Hmm.
forward. Or we could just tear up the contract. So it doesn't happen a lot, especially in kind of a rising market. But yeah, you just never know these days. Now we're in, sometimes prices are falling. You never know,
Yep.
but we deal with it as we go. Um, but what we're looking for is that call as the buyer's agent that says everything's peachy.
Yep.
Usually, buyer's agent then notifies listing agent,
Hmm.
who they can then tell their clients, "Hey, appraisal's back. We've crossed that hurdle." Usually, all the info is it was at value. We
Yep.
usually don't get a number that's like, "Hey, it was contract for 650 and it came back at 675 or whatever." That'd be
Yeah.
great news, but usually we just don't. We usually just hear
Yeah.
we're past it. So we've
We can quietly celebrate that and just chalk that up to excellent negotiation by our buyer side agent.
yeah. Anything else on appraisal?
I think that's it, man. We're this is going to be a super valuable video. I mean, from A to B, and if you able to make those checkpoints, kind of jump to some of these awesome
Yeah.
tips
Oh,
because
yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully. So the next chapter is going to be the final walkthrough. But
yeah.
if you're watching right now, give us a like or a comment. Let us know what you thought of so far, what we missed. Let us
Hmm.
know that you watched it so we know.
For
Um,
sure.
After that appraisal comes back, we're kind of just in the waiting game, I guess, and doing the final loan approval. It's
Yep.
kind of a lot of your side of the work at that point, from
Yeah, and that
end of
part's easy.
appraisal till
So
closing.
there's after you have that full credit approval, the only thing that is missing when you go out shopping is the property value. So once we get that value checked off, it goes back to underwriting with like updated bank statements and updated pay stubs, and we say here's the value, and it all checks off, and the underwriter will then put their stamp of approval and get what they call a clear to close. Final approval, and so that's
Hmm.
when we can start drawing loan docs and get them over to escrow for the signing appointment.
Nice. So loan documents, yeah, and clear to close. That's really the next thing after the appraisal, and that's the lender putting together all that,
Hmm.
getting the clear to close and putting together all the documents and sending them to the escrow company, right? So they
Yes.
can set up the final settlement statement
Yep.
and arrange the signings.
Exactly. And just to note on that, the escrow company acts as the neutral third party for everyone in the transaction. They disperse all the money, they collect and hold all the money. They're the ones that'll give you the wire instructions, the final numbers that they balance with the lender with. Everything goes through them at that point. And this is, it's really crucial to loop us in, with any questions because this is my little plug. Wire fraud is real. And so you want to be really careful on who you get that information from.
Yep. 100%. Good point too, that we didn't really explain what title and escrow are, and Phil did a
Yeah.
good job explaining that escrow is the neutral third party, and they'll hold all the funds, they'll draw up the documents and conduct the closing for us.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that gets confused with title, and
Totally.
oftentimes they're combined. Oftentimes
Yeah.
they're the same company.
Yeah.
Um, but the title side is really managing that, the title of the home, and is it clear of any liens or
Right.
encumbrances, and and then ensuring that for the buyer and the lender,
Mm-hmm.
should something come up down the road, they've basically provided the insurance company that would cover, to correct that
Yep.
error on the title
Yep.
or a lien or something that was not found. It would then be on them with the insurance, so that protects all the invested parties.
Yep. Yep. And I'm sure the next part that you'll maybe even get to, so forgive me if I'm jumping on it, but after you guys sign, there sometimes is a rescission period, a couple days you wait. But typically, after that happens, you just a very short time before you get what they call the recording numbers, right? And so, Preston, what happens when you finally get that email that says you're recorded with the county as a new owner?
Oh my gosh, that's closing day, right?
That's
Hey,
it.
closing day. You see the smiles on our faces, right?
We
Closing day is
love
a
that.
great day for everybody.
So fun.
Real estate agents, buyers, sellers, lenders. Uh, it really is the culmination, right, of
Yeah,
something we've probably been working towards for at least a month, and
at
sometimes
least.
been a year if you've been searching with that agent and making offers or whatever.
Yeah.
Finally, we're to the day where the county has recorded your title in your name for your house,
Hmm.
and you along with your lender or whatever, you're the owners. But the agent, whether it's me or your buyer's agent, anybody, gets to call you and congratulate you, and
Hmm.
set up a time to meet you at the house, right, to hand over the keys.
Right.
um, and you're happy you got your keys, the seller's happy they got their proceeds from selling the house and they can move on. And of
Hmm.
course Phil and I are happy because that's how we make a living and we can feed our families.
Right.
uh, but it really is the probably, one of the best parts of our job. It's the least stressful, is handing off those keys and seeing the smiles, and saying goodbye, right, and letting you
Hmm.
enjoy that, and take in that moment just with you. I don't usually hang around long. I like to hand off the keys, give you a little gift,
Yeah.
and say goodbye, because this is your moment, right?
Yeah.
It might be your first home, it might just be your next home, but that first day, man, it's hard to replicate. So,
I love that. I mean, we live vicariously through that
mhm.
moment. I feel like a huge sense of accomplishment, and that peak of their all their efforts, coming through. And I get goosebumps. I make that phone call like, oh my gosh, we just got, recording numbers, or I just got the clear to close. Those are such good feelings. And we love that.
I I'm seriously, I'm getting a little bit emotional about it right now, just thinking about some of the people
Yeah.
that, the forgettable ones. I don't remember. They're forgettable, but there are some that stay in my mind, that those days were pretty special
Hmm.
for me in my career, right? And I'm sure
Totally.
it was special for them, and that's for them to enjoy. But for us, that's the experience and, um, education, everything that's got us to where we are today, and keeps us
Right.
coming back wanting to do this job,
Yep.
and serve all of you that are out there. Um, One thing we kind of skipped over was that final walkthrough between, closing day and everything. You are going to get the opportunity usually for within the last 5 days to do a final walkthrough before you sign,
Hmm. Before
and check
sign. Yep.
that stuff out. And Phil talked about some of the rescission periods, but for the
Hmm.
most part, we're well beyond that at that point, and everybody's just ready to sign the paperwork,
Hmm.
grab their keys, and become a homeowner. So,
Yep, exactly. But yeah, that I see. I knew I kind of rushed to the finish line because I was so excited. But that final walkthrough, lenders, typically they don't see. It's something when you get clear to close, we're usually connecting with agents to find out when that final walkthrough is, because it's usually around the same time that, or the days right after that they're signing paperwork. We want to make sure you're getting the product that you signed up for.
yeah,
The
yeah,
home.
we usually will go the day before you signed, if we can't,
Yep.
before you sign the paperwork, if we can, or a couple days before.
Mhm.
And that's really just to check and see, hey, it's still there. When they moved out, nothing was damaged. Things haven't changed from when we made the
Mhm.
offer till the day that we close. As maybe a couple of weeks have passed, or if
Mhm.
there were some repairs that were due that they got done and they're acceptable. So just kind of for that purpose.
Yeah.
But man, I think we really hit it all from start to finish,
Yep.
from getting your feet wet and doing some open houses all the way to handing off the keys. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming on with me and talking that through. We spent about an hour doing it today.
Yeah. My pleasure. I mean, this is essentially what Preston and I would do in that first time home buyer class. So this is super valuable because we do this in front of clients one on one. But now you can watch it at your own time. So
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. So thank you for having me too.
Yeah. Oh, Always. Yeah. And appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Again, please give us a like, give us a comment, let us know your questions, what we might have missed. And until then, we'll see you next time.